All right, so this video is about creating or filling out the LO summary, the 3-year LO summary section on each learning tab in your Spring Reflections document. And we're going to be using the data from the weekly LO assessment document that we've been collecting information each week and making those assessments, whether you've made connected them throughout the year and then made the assessments now or been assessing on a weekly basis. The way that we did this, there's 2 ways to do it. Regardless of the method you choose, you will need to know that you have to indicate Spring 14 for every learning outcome in the learner's current age. So if the learner is 8, you will need to have Spring 14, SPR 14, beside every single learning outcome for age 8. And if no progress has been made or that you haven't documented, then you can call it not yet within expectations. The second thing you need to think about for every learner is that if you have LP14s beside learning outcomes in the age previous, so for an 8-year-old learner in age 7, if there is LP14 indicated beside a learning outcome, that's what we put there to document that those learning outcomes hadn't been completed the year before. So anything with an LP 14 beside it must also have an assessment in one of the 4 assessment columns of Spring 14, SPR 14. And then of course the third thing, if there's any other learning outcomes that they touched upon over the course of the year that you have documented, that don't fall within their current age or didn't have LP14 from their previous age, you can of course record those assessments as well. All right, so how do we get this data from one place to the other? We can do the same. One method is to do the same as we did in our winter reflections, where we copied the week numbers and we pasted them. And then we changed them to Win 14. We're going to change them to Spring 14. And you do the same thing as you did before. The difference, of course, is that anyone where there wasn't progress made, you will now also include a Spring 14, or that you don't have that hasn't been documented, you will include a Spring 14 in the not yet within category. And then as you go through, that's how you fill that out, similar to the way we did at Winter Reflections. That's called the overriding method. There is a second method that you may choose to use. And that method I'll call the updating method. And so let's say that Spring Reflections or Winter Reflections happened in week 23. So that's when I wrote my Winter Reflections. I'm going to go through each learning outcome and see when week 20, anything that's beyond week 23, and I'm going to update that. Now I only need to update those learning outcomes where progress has actually been made. And by that I mean where they've shifted from minimally meeting to fully meeting. So as you can see here at Winter Reflections, they were minimally meeting on this learning outcome. At Spring Reflections, they're still minimally meeting even though I have more data collected. So I'm not going to change that in my LO summary. I'm going to leave it as Win 14. The next learning outcome, I'm going to put not yet because I have no data there. The next is the same. Because there's nothing new, I'm going to leave it as is. And I'm going to keep going down row by row. Now if you have highlighted with a color, it will make it easier for you to see. What is new. So for example, in Identity, Society, and Culture, here's what I would do. It was already the first learning outcome, identify changes, was already fully meeting, and I haven't changed that. So I'm going to leave it. The second one, there is an update. So I'm going to update that learning outcome. because after week 23, I did notice a change from minimally meeting to fully meeting. Same with the next one here. And then as well down here, there was no progress that I had documented at winter, and now at spring I see that there is, so I'm going to include that. And in this way, you just work your way through the document, updating where there has been progress, or where there has not been anything indicated, then you need to put it in the not yet within column. But every learning outcome needs to have something beside it, a spring or a winter 14 beside it, depending on whether progress has been made since spring reflections or since winter reflections. Sorry about that. And so in the end, if you choose the updating method, you will have winter 14s there and you will have spring 14s there, and that's okay as long as there is an assessment beside every single one. And it's okay if there's duplicates, if it's winter and spring, because then you can see when it happened. So that's the difference between the overwriting method, just wipes everything away and you'll just have spring 14s. The updating method, you'll have both. So you have a bit of a different picture of when things happened over the course of the year. Of course, this was the original intention of the document, but due to the difficulties in working with such an unwieldy beast, we have, of course, we have made it so that you can choose your method and do what works best for you. And then, of course, because learner is 8, I go back to age 7 and I see if there's any progress that has been made in the age 7 learning outcomes, specifically the ones that have LP 14 beside them. And I can see that there's none here, so I would update that. I can see that there is here. So notice I'm not doing the all the LOs for age 7 because my learner isn't 7. I'm only doing the ones where there was an LP 14. I'm just updating those ones. And then anywhere progress has actually been made. So I can see here. And this is how you can do it with the updating method. And because certain learning outcomes that have LP14, there was no progress, I'm fine to put spring 14 in the not yet within column there. And there's been no change on this learning outcome. So it's the same process, and that's how we do it.